Filled with fury, Roman declared that Duke Bamford should have anticipated this outcome. At that moment, Saphir, the renowned 8th Circle mage, entered the battlefield, casting a powerful lightning spell aimed directly at Roman. As he advanced, the Kronos soldiers parted to make way for him. However, when the lightning spell struck Roman, it had no effect. Shocked, Saphir realized that Roman Dimitry was truly the greatest swordsman on the continent. Saphir admitted that at first, he had been curious about Roman's existence, wondering who would dare defy the empire without understanding their place. But now he understood, ordinary soldiers were no match for a monster like Roman. Yet, Saphir himself was no ordinary mage. He, too, was a monster. Preparing his next spell, Saphir declared that from this point forward, he would recognize Roman as a worthy opponent and would fight with everything he had. He would test just how long Roman could endure. He then cast a forbidden spell called Revival. Instantly, the defeated Kronos soldiers rose again, transformed into undead warriors. Roman, observing the scene, confirmed to himself that it was undoubtedly forbidden black magic. Among the risen was Hannibal, who began to stand, but Roman, with a single, decisive strike, takes him down again. With a stern expression, Roman called Saphir's magic an amusing trick. Without delay, Saphir unleashed another spell, Fury of the Heavens, a tremendous lightning attack that thundered down upon Roman. But Roman, using the second phase of the first technique of his Heavenly Demon sword art, split the spell in two with his blade. Stunned, Saphir could barely comprehend what he had just witnessed. Roman had divided an 8th circle spell using only his sword. Roman then charged straight at Saphir, undeterred by the swarm of undead soldiers blocking his path. Saphir ordered the undead to intercept and take Roman down, but Roman didn't stop. He activated the Heavenly Demon's dominating stride, combining the 4th and 5th steps of the technique, and decimated the undead in his way. At that critical moment, Saphir launched another spell, Death Hand, directly at Roman. The spell landed, but Roman managed to block it. With seamless precision, Roman countered with another Heavenly Demon sword art technique, the second phase of the first form, neutralizing the spell entirely. For the first time in centuries, Saphir heard a warning sound in his mind. He was stunned, unable to believe what was unfolding. It dawned on him that if this continued, he might die. Frustrated, Saphir acknowledged that he had intended to save his final spell for the yellow-haired woman, Isabel, but Roman had left him no choice. As Saphir began chanting, he told Roman to feel honored, forcing him to use such a technique. Roman, surprised, couldn't grasp what was happening. Then suddenly, a massive black mana circle engulfed both him and Saphir. In an instant, the two vanished from the battlefield. Chris and Kevin watched in shock, along with everyone else. Duke Bamford, seizing the opportunity, shouted that Roman had been defeated by Saphir. He ordered all Kronos units to launch a full assault on the Dimitry and Cairo forces. The Kronos army surged forward in unison. Meanwhile, Roman's troops stood in disarray, unsure of what to do without their leader. Doubt began to take root in their hearts. Chris quickly realized the danger and decided to act. Stepping forward, he declared himself Chris of Dimitry and urged the soldiers to trust him and follow his lead. Charging toward the approaching Kronos forces, Chris unleashed his aura, cutting down dozens of enemies with a single swing. Inspired, the Dimitry soldiers regained their fighting spirit. With renewed vigor, they cried out that they were soldiers of Dimitry, invincible and unyielding, and rallied behind Chris. Together, they charged at the Kronos forces with everything they had. Duke Bamford, watching the sudden surge, was baffled by the soldiers' resolve. He called them fools for thinking they could stand against the might of Kronos. He then ordered the mages to unleash their full power, using every spell necessary to crush Dimitri's forces. Just then, a radiant yellow light struck the ground from the sky. A powerful voice ordered the Kronos soldiers to stop where they stood. Descending with divine fury, Isabel, the yellow-haired woman, appeared. Burning with righteous anger, she reminded Kronos that she had warned them. But now, they had embraced the darkness in their pursuit of conquest. In the name of the divine, Isabel would bring justice and punishment. She cast Bless, a powerful holy spell that instantly healed the injuries of all Dimitri soldiers. Chris, amazed, looked at his healed body in awe, wondering if it was truly divine power. Isabel then called her soldiers to follow her and charged headfirst into the Kronos ranks. With astonishing speed and grace, she took down the enemies who dared to oppose her. Duke Bamford stood frozen in shock. Duke Bamford narrowed his eyes and thought to himself, "They have appeared." At that moment, Duke Bamford realized that the Kronos forces were going to lose. However, refusing to surrender, he ordered his troops to retreat. He commanded them to fall back to the castle, where Kronos would regroup, fortify, and prepare to defend. But before his orders could be fully executed, Flora struck Duke Bamford with a well-placed arrow. Stunned, he looked around in disbelief as he realized that even his defensive base had fallen. He couldn't comprehend when or how it had happened. Moments later, the Duke collapsed to the ground. Capitalizing on the chaos, Felix cast a powerful fire spell and launched it at the Kronos soldiers. Earlier, it had been the Phoenix mages who had captured the castle. Now, on the battlefield, the Kronos army found itself surrounded, trapped between the forces of the Dimitry alliance and Isabel's army. Slowly but surely, the Kronos soldiers were being isolated and overrun. Seeing this, Chris shouted that victory belonged to Dimitry and urged the soldiers to eliminate the remaining Kronos forces. From another side of the battlefield, Flora rallied the troops, announcing that the enemy commander had fallen and encouraging Dimitri's forces to press their advantage. The war, once thought to be a guaranteed victory for Kronos, ended in the Empire's crushing defeat. Dimitri's soldiers erupted in celebration, their cheers echoing across the battlefield. Chris approached Isabel and sincerely thanked her for aiding their cause. But curiosity lingered, and he asked about her true identity. Isabel revealed that she hailed from beyond the endless mountain range, from a place called Arcadia, the last nation of humans, and that she was none other than Isabel, Queen of Luna. The scene then shifted to a dark subspace where Saphir had taken Roman. This realm, overflowing with dark energy, was governed by Saphir's will. Even the shadows of death here were more powerful than ordinary undead. Yet, Saphir could not understand how he was being defeated. Roman had finally unleashed his true power. With a confident smirk, Roman remarked that things were starting to get interesting. Battered, Saphir demanded to know what kind of aura Roman was using and how he was managing to overcome such odds. Roman responded by activating the Heavenly Demon Dominant step, its layered seventh step. Surrounded by swirling aura, Roman warned Saphir that this would be the end. In the ancient Murim of Yongwon, not a single soul had ever blocked this strike. He challenged Saphir to try. With that, Roman executed the Heavenly Demon Sword technique. Final section, second form. The air cracked as the devastating strike landed, cloaking the area in smoke and debris. When the dust settled, Saphir lay defeated, unable to understand how he had lost to a power that wasn't divine. He couldn't believe it was happening. Roman stepped forward and asked Saphir a question that had long plagued him. Kronos already possessed the power to conquer the continent, so why had they hidden their true form until now? Roman needed answers. He used a forbidden phantom magic technique, one that had once terrified the Murim. It allowed the user to enter another's mind, but at a steep cost. The identities of both minds could become entangled, risking psychological collapse. Even Roman considered it a dangerous double-edged sword. He reminded himself he had only 3 seconds. In that brief time, he had to extract everything he could. Inside Saphir's mind, Roman saw 3 figures: a man named Sven, a mysterious figure called Mystic, and one more individual who caught Roman completely off guard. Roman stared at him in disbelief, wondering who this unknown person was. Suddenly, Roman returned from the subspace, finding himself at the edge of the endless mountain range, back in Dimitry. He wondered if Saphir's death had shattered the subspace magic, and why it had brought him here. For now, he decided to return to Dimitry. Upon arriving, his butler was stunned to see him. The man asked, bewildered, whether Roman hadn't gone to the battlefield. Roman responded calmly that something unexpected had come up, and that he would leave for Cairo the next day. After confirming Dimitri's victory and Isabel's safety through magical communication, Roman promised to meet Isabel in Cairo. However, before he could do that, he felt compelled to confirm something. He made his way to the Dimitry library, searching through volumes until he found what he needed. There, He read about Maximilian, the wandering swordsman who once stirred up the Salamander continent. Maximilian had caught the Kronos Emperor's attention and was granted the title of Count. He had spent the rest of his life serving the empire and eventually died in obscurity. Roman also read about Sven, the shadow who attacked Dimitry. Mystic, a mysterious figure who had mastered spatial manipulation magic and caused upheaval across the continent, only to vanish, and Ellington, a genius mage born to the noble house Ellington. In modern times, Ellington had gone by many names: Shirani, Schiffer. Schiffer, as Roman now suspected, had hidden far more than he let on. Yet, there was still one name left to confirm, one more identity buried in Schiffer's memories: Alexander, the great emperor. Alexander, the founder of Aura itself.